About 4 years previously, Bijju had knocked a hive out of an oak tree and had been badly stung on the face and legs. It had been a painful experience, but now, if a bee stung him, he felt nothing at all. He had been immunized for life. He was on his way home from school. It was 2 o'clock and he hadn't eaten since 6 in the morning. Fortunately, the kingora bushes, the bilberries, were in fruit, and already Bijju's lips were stained purple with the juice of the wild sour fruit. He didn't have any money to spend at Ram Bharosa's shop, but he stopped there anyway to look at the sweets in their glass jars. "And what will you have today?" asked Ram Bharosa. "No money," said Bijju. "You can pay me later." Bijju shook his head. Some of his friends had taken sweets on credit, and at the end of the month they had found they had eaten more sweets than they could possibly pay for. As a result, they had to hand over to Ram Bharosa some of their most treasured possessions, such as a curved knife for cutting grass, or a small hand axe, or a jar of pickles, or a pair of earrings. And these had become the shopkeeper's possessions and were kept by him or sold in his shop. Ram Bharosa had set his heart on having Binya's blue umbrella, and so naturally he was anxious to give credit to either of the children, but so far neither had fallen into the trap. Bijju moved on, his mouth full of kingora berries. Halfway home he saw Binya with the cows. It was late evening and the sun had gone down, but Binya still had the umbrella open. The 2 small wrens had been stitched up by her mother. Bijju gave his sister a handful of berries. She handed him the umbrella while she ate the berries. "You can have the umbrella until we get home," she said. It was her way of rewarding Bijju for bringing her the wild fruit. Calling Neelu, Gori, Binya had Bijju set out for home, followed at some distance by the cows. It was dark before they reached the village, but Bijju still had the umbrella open. Most of the people in the village were a little envious of Binya's blue umbrella. No one else had ever possessed one like it. The schoolmaster's wife thought it was quite wrong for a poor cultivator's daughter to have such a fine umbrella, while she, a second-class BA, had to make do with an ordinary black one. Her husband offered to have their old umbrella dyed blue. She gave him a scornful look and loved him a little less than before. The pujari, who looked after the temple, announced that he would buy a multicolored umbrella the next time he was in the town. A few days later, he returned looking annoyed and grumbling that they weren't available except in Delhi. Most people consoled themselves by saying that Binya's pretty umbrella wouldn't keep out of the rain if it rained heavily, that it would shrivel in the sun if the sun was fierce, that it would collapse in the wind if the wind was strong, that it would attract lightning if lightning fell near it, and that it would prove unlucky if there was any ill luck going about. Secretly, everyone admired it. Unlike the adults, the children didn't have to pretend. They were full of praise for the umbrella. It was so light, so pretty, so bright a blue, and it was just the right size for Binya. They knew that if they said nice things about the umbrella, Binya would smile and give it to them to hold for a little while, just a very little while. Soon it was the time of the monsoon. Big black clouds kept piling up, and thunder rolled over the hills. Binya sat on the hillside all afternoon, waiting for the rain. As soon as the first big drop of the rain came down, she raised the umbrella over her head. More drops, big ones, came pattering down. She could see them through the umbrella silk as they broke against the cloth. And then there was a cloudburst, and it was like standing under a waterfall. The umbrella wasn't really a rain umbrella, but it held up bravely. Only Binya's feet got wet. Rods of rain fell around her in a curtain of shivered glass. Everywhere on the hillside, people were scurrying for shelter. Some made for a charcoal burner's hut, others for a mule shed or Ram Bharosa's shop. Binya was the only one who didn't run. This was what she had been waiting for. Rain on her umbrella, and she wasn't in a hurry to go home. She didn't mind getting her feet wet. The cows didn't mind getting wet either. Presently, she found Bijju sheltering in a cave. He would have enjoyed getting wet, but he had his school books with him and he couldn't afford to let them get spoiled. When he saw Binya, he came out of the cave and shared the umbrella. He was a head taller than his sister, so he had to hold the umbrella for her, while she held his books. The cows had been left far behind. "Neelu, Neelu," called Binya. "Gori, Gori," called Bijju. When their mother saw them sauntering home through the driving rain, she called out, "Binya, Bijju, hurry up and bring the cows in. What are you doing out there in the rain?" "Just testing the umbrella," said Bijju.